Captain APLers here with a week 10 review. So do the standard stuff, go through the matchups, take a look at the best players and worst players of the week, some awards, and then look at the standings, do a little more abbreviated playoff preview than last week, and then mix in some listener questions along the way, and then talk about the trades that happened today. So here we go. First matchup of the week is Ryan versus Daggy. So this one pretty much went according to plan. Ryan clomped Daggy. He did so with another big Joe Burrow performance. They passed a ton against the Texans, even though they lost. They were still throwing the ball a lot. So 414 for Burrow. And then Brian Robinson gets the start with Mostert on bye, and he comes through. He had a big touchdown pass early in that game, and a 183. I think that's a season high for Robinson there. The rest of Ryan's team all did fine. So probably better than fine. Probably good. Nobody great, but good. So Taylor 96, Dell 95, Debo 83. So those are all good scores. Laporta had 84, a little bit of a down game for him, but enough to put up 11-22, solid score, and overall good. On the Daggy side of the ball, there's not a lot good to talk about. Derek Carr got knocked out of the game fairly early, so his point total sucks. James Conner, he was the bell cow guy back in Arizona, but Kyler took over some of the running stuff from him, but 73 is fine. Other than that, Taysom Hill was the first time he's under 100 in like a month. He didn't really do anything against the Vikings. And then Lockett had a big game. He had a lot of catches and a touchdown from Gino there too. So, but 7-10, so Daggy puts up. Not the best. Still laser focused on week 12 against the Boot Barn. I think that's where Daggy's focus is in the league right now. So thought Ryan would win by 146, but he comes up with a 412 point victory. So it moves Ryan to 7-3 in the three-way tie over in Jake's division. And Daggy's still obviously rocking the 0-win record there. So next we have the Fire Sale Boot Barn against Greg. So this was an important matchup over in the Diane Lane division, and it was pretty close, and it was pretty heated. So here's what the totals look like. Obviously, Ross comes out with the big victory. A few things to highlight here. The David Montgomery 75-yard touchdown run. Obviously, that's like 95 of David Montgomery's 136 points. If somehow that doesn't happen, Greg probably has a win here. Kevin still did stuff. Next started Gabe Davis and John Dotson combined for 60 points. Hunter Henry got 45, which is double what Kate Otten got. And that's probably why I would have started on his roster. So Max Crosby does nothing with 6. That's surprising there. So Ross puts up just a huge 894 number. And Greg is just pissed that he can't get more than 900 points to move into third place in our division. So Goff does his part. Olave does his part. The rest of the roster didn't do their part. So Johnny Smith, 3 points. Been pretty steady. Not this week, obviously. Henry, 21. Nixon, 67. Hollywood, 29. And Kyler's return. And Hopkins, for one huge week with Will Levis at quarterback, has been not good from there on out. So I noticed I didn't change the I gotta take a look here. I didn't change Marmaduke. He came out of Greg's lineup. I gotta see who actually got 81 points. I don't remember who, but Zaire Franklin played and he got 81 points. So that's a big number from the IDP there. So anyway, we thought that Greg would win. I thought Greg would win by 122. Ross actually wins by 22. So the Boot Barn is in third place spot here. And it's going to be tight there. He might actually make the playoffs after selling his team. So we'll see how it goes going forward. But looks like it could be possible. All right, next matchup is me versus Solomon. It was kind of a barn burner. Solomon got out to a big lead early. He had like close to 1,100 points with his early guys, and he still had Garrett Wilson and Bijan ready to go. Hawkinson had like, I don't know, he had like 250 or something at halftime. So thought that maybe more. That number was going to be crazy. Rashad White had a big touchdown. Amari Cooper was doing well. There. So Solomon gets out to a good early start. Dustin Hopkins is kicking field goals, including the game winner there. So 132 from the kicker is good. The defense is strong for all those guys. The lone weak point was that 49ers defense was tough for Trevor Lawrence and tough for Calvin Ridley. So those numbers were kind of the door open for my squad there. So in the late games, Bijan does well. Actually gets the ball a lot and scores a nice touchdown there and gets the 127. And Garrett Wilson caught a ton of passes on Sunday night for 102 points. I kind of figured he and Brees would equal each other out. They're pretty close, being like 24 points away, but figured that Brees would outscore Garrett Wilson by a little bit, but maybe pretty even went the other way. So Solomon puts out a good number. I was definitely concerned. Andrews had a subpar game for him with 90, and then the rest of my team went, and those receivers just went crazy in the second set of games there on Sunday. So Keenan Allen, 2 touchdowns, CeeDee Lamb, like unstoppable. Amon-Ra looked unstoppable too. Watching Amon-Ra and Keenan go back and forth in that game was fun. And then I was worried I started the wrong running back. I still did start the wrong running back with Gibbs and Walker, but Walker ripped off one of the home run things he can do with that 64-yard reception to get him up there. Figured I need like 300-400 points from Josh Allen on Monday night. Luckily, I didn't need that because that was a mess that's been talked about all over the place. So 1,403 points in total. Solomon, a great week with 12-19, and unfortunately not quite enough. So thought I'd win by $1.59, won by 184. Next matchup is Corey versus Sade. So there's the man, Mike Evans. Everybody kind of cast him off at the beginning of the year. Nobody really, he's like way down in draft boards compared to what he'd done before. Didn't matter for Corey. Corey took him and he's been good. So on the Sade side, Sade gets to 1,029, mostly led by those Chargers guys. Justin Herbert, great against the Lions. Eckler, really good. The game was fun. Just tons of offense, really fun to watch. Christian Kirk did his thing that he's been doing all year long, 100 points. And Njoku, solid again, 122. But Sade let down there by Deontay, who didn't do really anything against the Packers. And then Jacoby Myers did very, very little against the Jets. So definitely disappointing 1,029 number there from Sade. This is a winnable matchup against Corey here. Corey rolls with Deshaun Watson against the Ravens defense, who has been tough and gets 282 points. Not bad, not great. Jerome Ford with 110 against the Ravens, really good. Josh Jacobs against the Jets for 119, again, good. And Devontae is a little more involved with 92, and then Mike Evans with the 169 there is the big difference maker in this matchup. So Corey gets enough from the kicker with down games from Drake London and Evan Ingram, but still gets the win at 1,062. So nice for Corey to gum through the bye week, the Mahomes and Pacheco bye week here with a win. So I thought today would win by 82, but Corey actually won by 33. So next matchup is, there's the man, is the game of the week here is Jake and Tank. And Jake gets another big game from Dak. So we'll jump over to the Jake side of it. It's really headlined by 4 guys. So Dak goes nuts, 537. Figured that the Cowboys would pull off at some point, and they just didn't. I guess they didn't. Dak got 537 in 3 quarters. Didn't play in the 4th quarter at all. But they were just firing the ball all over the place in the 3rd quarter, even though they were up by over 20 points, over 30 points. It didn't matter. They still kept their own. So huge number from Dak. CMC did his normal stuff, 148. Jamar Chase, big game with Higgins out, 149 there as well. And then Kittle does his stuff. So I was debating if I were Jake, would I started Kittle or would I started Schultz? I thought I thought I would have started Schultz just to get the steady base there. Gotta look and see. I think Schultz still did fine. It wasn't 255 and all that. So yeah, Schultz had 146. So to take 100 points off, Jake still gets the win, but Kittle is definitely the right spot or the right start there with the huge game, including that 66-yard touchdown. On the Tank side of the ball, he gets 453 from Geno in a game that got wild in the second half with tons of passing, and 270 from tight end. So no Kelsey, no problem. McBride gets 270. Huge games from those two spots should put you in a good spot to win, but Diggs, McLaurin, and ETN didn't do their normal stuff. So Tank still puts up a good score of 1177, but not enough against the juggernaut that is Dak and Kittle combo right now for Jake. So I thought Jake could win in a close one, but Jake wins by 223. So that's a quick rundown of the matchups for the week. These are the high scorers for the week here. So these are the dudes who we've already talked about a little bit. So it's Dak and Brian Robinson, and Keenan Allen and Trey McBride are the big guys for the week there. So interested in looking at those tight end scores since week 5 had somebody over 250 every week with a tight end spot. So it's kind of fun. And Keenan Allen finally breaks the CeeDee Lamb run there, and Dak's on his own run at quarterback where he's been the number 1 guy for 2 weeks in a row. All right, so the shitty guys here, these are the guys that sucked the most this week. So there's Derek Carr getting wrecked. Maybe that's a little inconsiderate to put that picture out there, but that's what happened. So Derek Carr got a $133, got knocked out. I don't remember when. It was, I think it was in the second half. Zach Moss got 2 points. He's probably cut this week by John Dotson got a 0. I believe he's still on Kevin's roster. And then Johnny Smith got a 3, and Greg didn't want to deal with that anymore. So he made a move today too. So move to the weekly awards. So Bijan is here as the background guy, because with him as the no shit award winner for the week. There weren't a lot of choices. There are a lot of buys this week that there weren't too many head scratcher starts, but I think if you're in Solomon's spot, Bijan has definitely not gotten the ball, had been in the press a lot, and definitely seemed like Arthur Smith didn't feel like he needed to give Bijan the ball a lot more, but he did. Solomon went with him in that matchup over Saquon, who had been getting the ball a lot more, obviously in a tougher matchup against the Cowboys. So I could see it both ways. I just think that that's a good start there. So MVP of the week is Dak with that huge 537 game. Rodder of the week, I went with Derrick Henry. Greg's expecting more than 21 points out of Henry, and I just didn't get it. Wouldn't have done that. There weren't a ton of great choices here either. I just went with George Pickens. I thought that Pittman was a better play there at wide receiver, and he scored a few more points than Pickens. I just thought with all the negative stuff that Pickens had said about the Steelers, that was a little more risky of a start. He still got 48 points, but there again, not a lot of standouts there, and the wouldn't have done that. The should have done that is definitely Greg on Noah Brown. He had the dude to take over for Nico's spot this week on his roster. If he throws Noah Brown in, he gets the win. And the would have been good at Shamrock as Solomon comes up with the 3rd highest point total of the week, and unfortunately gets a loss. So go from there to take a look at the standings. I'll go through these fairly quick because we'll talk about them in the playoff preview coming up too. So obviously the Jake division, Ryan, Jake, and Tank are all tied at 7-3 records. You can see the divisional records there. Tank has the advantage at 5-1, and then Jake at 4-2, and Ryan at 2-3. So those come into play if we have head-to-head tiebreakers where the season series was split. The overall points, which is right now what is breaking this tie, they're so close. It's crazy that Jake is behind Ryan by 9 points, and then Tank's not far behind there either. So it's just going to be a battle to the finish there between those three. We'll take a look at the schedules in the next slide too. So today is at 5-5. Saw the Eckler trade today, so it might be waving the white flag on that, and maybe you can pull a Ross and try to weasel his way in there if somebody at the top in those top three have a rough spot there. Diggy's still holding strong, 10. Down to the Diane Lane division. Got the 8-2 record there. Corey not far behind at 6-4. Corey's got a decent gap there on Kevin at 6, and then Solomon and Greg at 3-7. So that one right now, the tiebreaker goes to Solomon because he has won the season, or he has a head-to-head matchup against Greg. So looking at week 11, got some good matchups. Sadeh versus Ryan. I know Ryan is a little worried about that. Now Ryan has Eckler and Sadeh doesn't, so that probably gives the advantage to Ryan a little bit more on that one. Jake versus Daggy. Is this the week where Daggy can throw a big wrench into the division and get his first win? Me versus Tank. Big matchup on the outside of the division matchup this week. Implications on both sides there. Corey versus Greg. Greg makes a big trade today to try to push him across the line here to get a win against Corey and jump back into the conversation for the third playoff spot. And then I think this will probably be the game of the week. Solomon versus Kevin. This one is really, really key in the battle for the third playoff spot out of this division. So I'm interested to see how this one goes. Trash Talk has started. The Americas are extremely confident this week and have been pushing some good trash talk over towards the boot barn. So, all right, quick look at the playoffs here. Just highlight a few things. We've already talked about the records. So the Ryan Jake Tank battle here for the top three spots to see who can win the division and who comes out second and third. If that's how it plays out, Jake has the easiest schedule by far between the two guys and the least bye week issues to go through. Taking Ryan, fairly similar records. Ryan's is a little bit tougher, but got to think that matchup in week 14 between Tank and Ryan is going to be important to determine something. Ryan also can run and maybe have a little control of his own destiny in those last two matchups against Jake and Tank. Sadeh, if somebody's going to take a little fall up there and drop a couple games, Sadeh's schedule's, I say, middle of the pack there, but probably tougher if it's not going to have all the dudes that he had before. Over in Greg's division, I have a middle of the pack schedule as well. Get Tank this week, Sadeh next week, Greg and Corey to round things out. So that week 14 matchup between me and Corey could be important, could be for the first place spot, depending on what happens here over the next couple of weeks. Corey gets Greg, who's very motivated, then Ryan, and then the boot barn leading up to that matchup. So battling out for that last playoff spot, what it looks like anyway. Kevin, Solomon, and Greg. So Ross and Solomon definitely have the easier schedule. Greg is a tough road here. Greg's got Corey, Jake, me, and Solomon to go through to try to climb. He's got to get, if him and Kevin are matched up, he's going to lose that tiebreaker. So he's got to get a game ahead of Kevin or hope for a three-way tie. And right now he'd have the points there. So just been going to be a good battle between those three guys down the stretch. So talk a little bit about the trades today. Obviously, you said Sadeh traded Eckler to Ryan for a 6th rounder, kind of signaling that his text said he was looking to sell, and that confirms that he's looking to sell. So some players available there, and so they can get some of the draft picks back that he traded away to try to bolster the lineup that he's disappointed by. And then the Greg and Tank trade is kind of a big one. So didn't see it go through. Greg traded Hertz, Henry, Hollywood, and Goddard to tank for Purdy, Swift, Boyd, and McBride. So I'd say if you look at the names, probably looks pretty lopsided towards tank. The tank got all the good players, except tight end. And that Greg may have gotten screwed over. I think that could be the easy conclusion. I would say, in my opinion, Tank did win the trade in the end. But if you're looking at it from Greg's perspective, looking at this schedule here, Greg has 4 games. He's got to make up some ground here. So Hurts over the next 4 games has the Chiefs, Bills, 49ers, and Cowboys. So those are 4 tough defenses to play against. And there may not be a ton of upside there. So Purdy has the Bucks, Seahawks, Eagles, and Seahawks. Those are defenses that are getting passed all over. And then he also has Goff. So I think he can mix and match Purdy and Goff and probably feel like he's getting Hurts production. It'll be interesting to see how that compares. So he, dangles Hurts as the big key there, feeling like he can cover quarterback and he needs a tight end. So Johnny Smith and Albert O were the tight ends on the roster. So McBride, who's had 2 games over 200 out of his last 3, is the big piece for him to put up a big number. So I think Greg's probably feeling like he can equal what he's going to get at quarterback from Hurts, gets a huge upgrade at tight end. And then the rest of the stuff I'm just not really sure about. So Swift and Henry feels kind of even to me. Both are fine, but maybe not like huge upside guys, but they feel very similar. And then Hollywood for Boyd. I think Boyd is fine as long as Higgins is out, but I don't think Higgins is going to be out that long. And I'd like to think that Hollywood has a little more upside than Boyd with Kyler coming back. It didn't happen this week, but it does there. It does going forward. So I think both guys are probably happy. I mean, Tank gets a quarterback that he's had some inconsistency at quarterback there, and Hurts can provide that for him. He gets Henry and Brown, and then he probably doesn't need Goddard with Kelsey, but it's not a bad backup plan if needed. And on the Greg side, he can cover quarterback. I'm assuming Greg likes Swift better than Henry, probably frustrated with him from the trade, and then is really excited about the McBride addition at tight end. So that's my breakdown. So a couple listener questions. One was one asked what is the feeling, what's the panic level at in the Today headquarters? So I was planning on doing this last night. It just got too late and I went to bed. My answer then would have been that there isn't a panic level at the Today headquarters because the Today headquarters are not really concerned about this anymore. And then the breaking news from today definitely back that up. So I don't think there's too much panic. It's just probably more disappointment with how the season went. But looking at the amount of injuries that the Today team has had, it's just a tough go of it. Another question is Kevin or PJ worse at running a team this year? So it's an interesting question. I thought about it for a little bit, and initially I figured it. I thought it was Kevin to start with, and then thought about it a little more and went, it's definitely PJ. Like, he has his handpicked talent and can't win games. Ross got rid of all of his handpicked talent and is still winning games lately. He's not even trying and winning games, and PJ is trying and losing to really bad teams. So I think just based on the results, Kevin's 4-6 and PJ's whatever. I don't know what their record is, but I know they need one more to get a bowl game. So they have 5 wins. I don't know how many losses they have, and frankly don't give a shit because they're horrible to watch. So I'm gonna go with Ross. Is managed his team better than PJ. And then the secondary question is also, should we change the playoffs to have the top 2 teams from each division go, and then 2 wild cards would be the teams with the best records or for tied the most points. left. So it would be the top 2 from each division and then wild cards for the rest. So dick bag teams aren't in a spot to go to the playoffs with a losing record. I would assume that this question refers to dick bag teams like Kevin's that went to the playoffs with a losing record or could go to the playoffs with a losing record, not Greg's team from last year, because we were all pretty excited when Greg's team went to the playoffs last year instead of Kevin's. So I'll put that qualifier in there. So my thoughts would be it's something to talk about and see what everybody thinks. My personal thoughts would be I would leave it the way it is, because I think we play everybody in our division more than we play the other divisions. So if we're going to get to the spot where we're going to do wild cards, then I almost don't see the point in divisions if the play isn't going to be super balanced. So we get to play somebody else from the other division twice. So I just don't think the schedule's that equal, that everybody's comparable that way. So if we did the top 2 from each division, like I would be in favor of the next 2 be the people with more points, more than the record. And I just think it gets a little convoluted if that's really what you're going to do, because it doesn't put an emphasis on wins and losses. It puts an emphasis on points, and I don't know. So I think it's worth a discussion, because it does look like we're going to have 2 years in a row where we're going to have a team that is below 500 make the playoffs. Doesn't really bother me, but something to talk about. I think those are all the listener questions that came through. Oh no, there was another one that said, what's the record for most points on someone's injured reserve for 1 week? It might have been Kevin's this week. So let's just another just talking point for the off season is, what do we do about injured reserve? So when can you put people on? How long should we be able to keep them on for? I don't think that there necessarily were any rules being violated this week, but there's some wiggle room in the old IR stuff. So I think that's it for the week. Be back with a week 11 preview on Saturday night or Sunday morning. Talk to you guys later.